Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports, where we got a little baseball to talk about. Lenny, great job. Way to lead it off for our Monday. 2 weeks to go in the regular season, and, who knows what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting right down to the final day. Looking at the standings this morning, the Yankees back on track. Now they only trail the second place Blue Jays by a half game, and they got games left with each other. That's what's going to make these games down the stretch so exciting. I'm looking at the standings this morning. Tampa Bay, I'm just going to go through the American League and National League 1 through 8. Of course, the first place teams are the first three seeds. The second place teams, in order of best record, are the next three. And then you have two just outside wild cards. So right now, here you go. The best record in the American League this morning. The Chicago White Sox. That's right. With 46 games in, the White Sox are 30-16. The Rays are 30-17. And the A's are 29-17. Look, so you've got one game separating three teams from having the best record in the American League. The A's, we're going to get to the schedule in just a moment. The A's have a doubleheader today. Got some games to make up from last week. So, wow. Looking at 4 through 6, the Twins, 30-18, second place in the Central. The Blue Jays, 26-20, second place right now in the East. The Astros, 23-24, a losing record, 6th seed, second place in the American League West. And the two wild card teams, if the season ends today, are the Yankees and the Indians, both at 26-21. Now, the Yankees and Indians lead the Mariners by, 4.5 games. So, barring some unforeseen miracle, those should be your 8 playoff teams. Now, as far as seeding goes, to be determined. Note the Indians are 26-21. They trail the Twins for the second place position by 3.5 games? The A's, I told you the Yankees and the Blue Jays are within a half a game of each other. So let's see. I got Kurt Hinton in this morning. He says, as I've looked underwhelming of late, I predict an early playoff exit. I don't know if he's talking fantasy or I don't know if he's talking reality. If he's talking reality, he's talking about the Redbirds in St. Louis. And let's go there right now to the National League, where the Dodgers still have the best record in all of baseball, 47 games in. That means they have 13 to go. They're 33-14, but they only lead the Padres. Oh, he's talking about the Athletics. We'll get back to the A's in just a moment. The Dodgers only lead the Padres by 3 games. 3. They play each other. The Padres, even with Fernando Tatis hitting .220 over his last 10 games, they still are on a major streak. So who knows? I mean, yeah, I think the Dodgers should win the West, but would I be shocked if the Padres did? No, I would not. The Braves are in the second seed, 28-19. They lead the East. And the Cubs, 28-20. They lead the Central. Now, the 3 wild card teams are the Padres, the Marlins, who are 23-21. Second place, and did you watch Sixto Lezcano pitch yesterday for Miami? Because if you didn't, you missed a treat. In the 7th inning, he was throwing over 100 miles an hour in the 7th inning. Only 8 pitchers before him have ever done that in the 7th inning. Some of those names are the likes of Verlander and Scherzer. Not bad company for Sixto Lezcano, I wouldn't think. The Cardinals, 20-20. They are in second place in the Central. Now, remember, they've lost the same number of games as the Cubs, 20. The Cubs have played more games. That Central Division is still up for grabs. And we look at the wild card, the Phillies and the Giants. The Phillies are in 7th at 23-22. And are the Phillies banged up. Realmuto with a sore hip. Hoskins with a sore arm. MRI did not show a break, but there's still problems. So they think they may have missed something with the first MRI. They're going back for a second MRI. That the Phillies are beat up. Bruce is on the IL. Segura's hurt. The Giants right now are the 8th place team, and they lead the Rockies by a game and a half and the Brewers by a game and a half. So there's still fight for that 8th slot in the National League. But right now, you got to figure the Dodgers, the Padres, the Braves. I tell you what, the Marlins pitching is really good. So let's look at the schedule for today and what Kurt Hinton was talking about. If you look at Facebook, you'll see the questions. The A's have been floundering, not hitting the ball well at all of late. Let's look at our schedule for today. Some doubleheaders like I told you about. The Pirates and the Reds. Now, the Reds are only 2.5 games out of that 8th slot. They need to win, and they need to win a lot in a hurry. They're playing the Pirates today. First pitch at 4:10 from Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Trevor Bauer and Ponce for Pirates. Second game will be Mitch Keller for Pittsburgh, and Discafini for the Reds. Also at 4:10, the Phillies play the Marlins, Velasquez and Lopez. The Athletics and Mariners play a doubleheader at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington. First pitch at 5:10 p.m. today. Luzardo for Oakland, Gonzalez for Seattle. And in the second game, the A's have named Minor to start game 2. The Mariners have yet to name a starting pitcher. So Seattle will be facing 2 Oakland left-handers in game 1, Luzardo, and in game 2, Minor. Oakland will be facing Gonzalez, a left-hander. I guess you've heard the news about Matt Chapman. Lenny talks about it. Chapman out for the season. Hip issue. That's a big blow. The backup to Chapman, Chad Pender, on the IL. Oakland has a guy, last name, who's Machine. I guess everybody wants to have a machine at third base. Well, now Oakland does. They also lost their left-handed prospect, Eric Puck, to shoulder surgery. He's out for the year. Don't know how long he will be out. Hopefully it's not a career-ending surgery, but anytime I hear the word shoulder and pitcher, it's never good. But these are big games for the Athletics. And if they could start hitting today, I wouldn't be surprised. Baseball's that way. You're not going to stay cold but so long. That's, well, at least we think. Christian Yelich might argue that differently, right? He's been cold the whole season. But you would think that Oakland, playing at Seattle, might break out some sticks today. Just about the time you thought Matt Olson was breaking them out, he strikes out 4 times yesterday. And the thing I don't understand about that game with Oakland and Texas yesterday, Lance Lynn could have been traded for at the trade deadline, yet no one offered a package, and now he's still in Texas. Struck out 14 yesterday. Are you kidding me? Every team could use Lance Lynn. I'm just really surprised no trades were made. Cardinals-Brewers doubleheader. Look for some runs in this one. I just got to believe these two teams are overdue. This series is in Milwaukee, a hitter's park. Kim coming off of the IL for St. Louis in game 1 against Lindblom. And in game 2, Ponce de Leon still searching for the fountain of youth. Now he's looking in Milwaukee for it against Burns. Burns has really looked good lately. He's 3-0 in the season with a 1.99 ERA. At 7:35, the Braves and the Birds at Oriole Park in Camden Yards. Toussaint Touki pitching for Atlanta. He's 0-1 with a 7.89 ERA. Lopez for Baltimore, 1-0 with a 6.38 ERA. Think there might be some in that one? I certainly think so. The Twins and White Sox from Guaranteed Field. These are big games. And Berrios is going against Dylan Cease tonight at Guaranteed Field in Chicago. I think that will be a White Sox win. I've not been impressed with Berrios. This may be the game he really comes out and shines. But he, to me, has just never consistently performed at the level that we as fantasy owners would like to see. And so now Dylan Cease, he could walk the park. It could be a high-scoring game. So if you've got Twins and White Sox, it isn't a bad day to put those hitters in your lineup. Padres, Dodgers. There you go. Game of the day, 9:10 p.m. Lamette's going for the Padres. Dodgers have yet to name a starter. These games are at Petco Park in San Diego. Danielson Lamette, hot off of a 6-inning, 13 strikeout game, his last outing. Look for that to continue. I think this will be a low-scoring game. I think the winning run could either be very early in the first inning or very late in the last one. Dodgers, Padres. Wow. Again, Sixto Lezcano looked great yesterday. I see where Kurt Hitton has him in all 4 of his leagues. We're knee-deep in the hoopla as far as fantasy playoffs are concerned. I'm in a league. Playoffs start today. It's a 2-week playoff. In 2 weeks, regular season's over, and we'll be talking playoff baseball. Can you believe it? What a season. So now I want to shift gears, and it's time for Monday Morning Quarterback. Yeah. You see behind me, I got a picture of Cam Newton. Did you watch the Patriots and the Dolphins yesterday? Patriots win 21-11, and it wasn't so much what Cam Newton did through the air as it was what Cam Newton did on the ground. Newton yesterday for the Patriots, I almost said Panthers. He had 15 completions, 155 yards, ho-hum. But he had 15 rushes. That's right, 15 rushes, 75 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. In my Yahoo League, that's good for 27.20 points. Great day for Cam Newton at quarterback. We're going to go through some of the best plays of the day this morning in football fantasy yesterday. But as good as that was, it was not the best outing for a quarterback. Russell Wilson, he of North Carolina State / Wisconsin fame, threw 4 passing touchdowns yesterday. He was 31 of 35, and he had 322 passing yards in his team's 38-25 win at Atlanta. Now, I happen to be an owner of Russell Wilson in a league, and Russell Wilson, to me, is just every bit as good as Patrick Mahomes in fantasy. He runs, he throws, and yesterday, don't know what's going to happen tonight with Big Ben and some others, Daniel Jones, Tannehill, you just don't know. But if everything stays pat, Russell Wilson will have had the #1 quarterback outing in fantasy for week 1. Wide receiver, well, not far behind him is Aaron Rodgers. 4 touchdowns. In fact, he may actually have better numbers, but on a percentage basis, 31 for 35, Russell Wilson beats everybody. But yesterday, Rodgers had 4 passing touchdowns, 364 yards through the air, 32 completions. Wilson did outrush him. But if you went with Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson yesterday, you had fantasy gold. Passing, and here's a great combination. If you somehow teamed up Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams yesterday, Devontae Adams, 156 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 14 receptions. As much as he was a fantasy darling yesterday, who was your fantasy dud at wide receiver? Well, for me, it had to be Michael Thomas for New Orleans. I mean, what's going on with Michael Thomas yesterday? Did you look at his numbers? Do you have him on any of your teams? Because if you do, you were sorely disappointed in what you got from Michael Thomas. I mean, he was the #1 receiver in fantasy last year, and in many leagues yesterday, he may not have even scored you 5 points. And that was a game where we expected a lot of points to be scored between New Orleans and Tampa Bay. Well, points were scored. New Orleans wins 34-23, Brady with a pick 6. But Michael Thomas, who you figure to be a big player in that game yesterday, almost non-existent. Does that mean you should cut him? Absolutely not. Does that mean you should trade him? Absolutely not. He's going to make up for it. But it just shows how in fantasy football, just like baseball, sometimes it's the unpredictable that happens. So let's look at some more stars from yesterday. Did you catch that Panther game with the Raiders? 17-15 was the halftime score. And in the second half, the score was the same, 17-15 again. Raiders win 34-30. It was a 4th and 1 for the Panthers late in the game. McCaffrey had been dealing. I mean, really, McCaffrey had been dealing. Every time he got the ball, it was a positive gain. 4th and 1, they give the ball to the fullback. The Raiders stop it. They take control of the ball. The game is over. The Raiders traveled cross country to Carolina yesterday and win 34-30. A big part of that is Josh Jacobs. 3 rushing touchdowns, 93 rushing yards, 46 receiving yards. And if you're an owner of Josh Jacobs this year, you got to be licking those chops. What a great game for the Oakland Raider. Great. Another quarterback. We're going to talk about 3 quarterbacks in a row here. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray. All fantasy studs yesterday. Josh Allen, I think, who is better in fantasy than in reality. 312 passing yards. It was Allen's first career passing day over 300 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. I also told you we'd talk about Lamar Jackson for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson yesterday in his game. Let me see here. I lost my place on my screen. Just one second. I'm sorry. Lamar Jackson had 3 passing touchdowns yesterday, 275 passing yards, and 45 rushing yards. And then, of course, Kyler Murray, second-year QB for the Arizona Cardinals. And if you're a Cardinals fan, you had to love the way they played yesterday, winning the game 24-20 at San Francisco. Remember, San Francisco, the defending NFC champs. And the Arizona Cardinals beat them. Kyler Murray, a big reason why. 230 passing yards, 91 rushing yards. To go along with that, a rushing touchdown for Kyler Murray. Now let's talk about some wide receivers. Calvin Ridley for Atlanta. Yesterday, the Falcons had 3 100-yard receivers. Calvin Ridley leading the bunch with 130 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns on 9 receptions. Adam Thielen in the 34-43 loss to Green Bay had 2 touchdowns receiving, 110 yards on 6 receptions. Looking at some more, let's see. I was looking for another wide receiver. I'll tell you what, let's go. Well, DeAndre Hopkins for Arizona. Kyler Murray throwing to him. 14 receptions, 151 yards, and 1. He had a tackle yesterday on. How about that? You don't usually see DeAndre Hopkins in a solo tackle, but he picked up 1 fantasy point if you do defense in your leagues for a solo tackle yesterday. Way to go. Now, running backs, a few there that I think we need to talk about. Christian McCaffrey for the Panthers, 2 rushing touchdowns, 96 rushing yards, 38 receiving yards in their loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. Elliott Ezekiel for Dallas. Dallas loses last night. Did you watch that game? Near the end of the game, Dallas has the ball, approximately a 50-yard pass from Prescott to his wide receiver. And if you watch Gallup running down the field being defended, both players are going at it a little bit. Gallup makes the catch. Gallup gets called for offensive interference, bringing the play back. All of the announcers, including this one, say it was a bogus call, bad call, shouldn't have been a call, should have been a catch. And if you're a Gallup owner like I am, not that I would be partial here, but you lose about 5.5 points because you lose a 50-yard catch. And if you're in a half-point or full-point PPR, you lose either another half-point or a full point. Huge. Again, Chris Collinsworth calling the game said it shouldn't have been a call. Others today on Twitter have said it shouldn't have been a call. I say it wasn't a call. I'm not even a Cowboys fan. I'm a Raiders fan. Big Raiders fan. Kenny Stabler, Bolitnikov, Casper. I mean, the whole crowd. I see number 28, Josh Jacobs, yesterday. I think of Clarence Davis. That's how far back I go. Big game yesterday. Let's talk about a few more before we get off the air today. We got some games tonight I want to go over with you for just a little bit. Ezekiel Elliott, again, 96 yards rushing, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown. Malcolm Brown for the Rams, 2 receiving touchdowns, 79 yards rushing, and 31 yards receiving. Now, if you're looking at yesterday at a possible dark horse going forward, how about I throw these at you? 2 wide receivers. Robbie Anderson for Carolina, 6 receptions, 115 receiving yards, and a touchdown. And then Jamison Crowder for the Jets at Buffalo yesterday, 7 receptions, 115 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Here's a really, in a deep league, another player that I'm high on. I want to share him with you this morning. And I watched the flow of the game yesterday. I watched the San Francisco-Arizona game. And Garoppolo, I don't know if he doesn't have a wide receiver. I don't know if he just despises throwing to them. I don't know if there was a live thread on him yesterday, if he did throw to his wide receivers. But whatever it was, he doesn't like throwing to his wide receivers. At least he doesn't do it. Yesterday in the first half, he threw to Greg Kittle, his all-pro tight end. Second half, Kittle had no catches, although he played the entire second half. But a player who in my league scored 11.90 points, Jerick McKinnon. Write that name down, Jerick McKinnon. He had 3 rushes for 24 yards, but he had 5 targets, 3 receptions, 20 yards catching, and a receiving touchdown. Why is he significant? Well, first of all, he was to be the starting tailback, RB1 in San Francisco in 2018, and he got a season-ending injury. He's back now. He has received raving reviews from his head coach. So yesterday, with 8:38 to go in the final quarter, so that means he's playing late. Garoppolo hit him for the go-ahead touchdown. Now, both Raheem Mostert, the starting tailback, and McKinnon have been featured in the passing game. Remember, they were without Deebo Samuel. But it's notable that Coach Kyle Shanahan called for the play to go to McKinnon. And McKinnon also out-touched Tevin Coleman yesterday. Now, I granted that Mostert is the workhorse following one game, but McKinnon should continue to provide just enough value. He may be a good matchup starter. He may be good at the flex position in deeper leagues. I'm in a 14-team league. There's no meat on the bone. And in 14-team leagues, if Jerick McKinnon is there, you should go get him. So tonight, the early game tonight features the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh playing against the New York Giants. If I have to pick a go-to player tonight, it would have to be James Conner for the Pittsburgh Steelers. His head coach, I'm quoting him now, this is head coach Tomlin. Mike Tomlin said, quote, "There is no question about who our bell cow is," end of quote. Quoting again, it's James Conner, and he's our primary toter. There you go, end of quote. Toter. So if he's going to be the primary toter and he's the bell cow, then I got to go with James Conner tonight against a less than stellar Steeler defense. Not only does Conner run the ball, he's healthy, and he catches passes, and he scores touchdowns. And so if there is a player tonight that I like in game one above any other, it would have to be James Conner for the Steelers. Again, Steelers-Giants, 7:10 p.m. tonight. The second game later game features the Broncos against the Tennessee Titans in Denver. And in this game, here's a little sneaky pick. I like Ryan Tannehill. I really do. I think Tannehill, the last time Denver played Tennessee, Denver totally focused on shutting down the running game of the Titans and did a fairly good job of it. I could see Tennessee coming out tonight, throwing the ball on early downs, and that would benefit Tannehill. I think it could also catch Denver off guard a little bit. Denver's defense is without their best player. So my surprise pick tonight is Tennessee going into Denver, putting up some points, and beating the Broncos at the Mile High Stadium. There you go. Here's what we're going to do on Tuesday. We're going to talk about those two games. We'll talk about some more, too. We'll talk about baseball. The season dwindling down. A lot of double headers today. A lot to go through tomorrow on where do we go from here, right? Alan Parsons project. Anyway, I'll be back with you tomorrow. Everybody have a great Monday. And let's see. Remember, first pitch today is at 4:05. Tonight's NFL game starts at 7:10. And I'll be seeing you tomorrow right here on Arnie's Fantasy World.